Hey,
Good morning,
good afternoon,
Los Angeles, and around the world.
or good evening.
How y'all doing?
Hey,
Thanks for joining us.
coming to you from Los Angeles,
Los
California.
Angeles. Beautiful LA.
California is very beautiful, I must say that. Southern California, Los Angeles, by the beach probably.
It's beautiful in the spring.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
really nice. Well, welcome everybody. And Dan, you and I get to talk today about intimate relations.
We're going to talk about people, huh?
Yeah, let's talk about intimate.
And how they get along in their primary relationships.
Is that primary?
Well, that's what we can call it.
Okay.
Yeah, somebody you live with and, marry, that sort of thing.
Or
Someone you sleep with.
just sleep? Or are you thinking sexually?
I was thinking sexually.
Yeah.
Air quotes.
Air quotes. I'm liking that. I like
Yeah.
air quotes, but you guys can't see the air quotes when we do it. So.
But sex is a larger issue because you can have sex with anybody. If you go out at night and have sex with someone, I don't consider that a primary relationship. That's just a one night stand. But so sex is related, but it's a different topic as well.
So you don't consider sex intimacy then?
Well, certainly physical intimacy, but there's no prerequisite for any emotional connection.
That's true. That's true. So when we're talking about intimate relationships today, should we include some of those one night stands that are just? Should we talk about that as well and how that fits in?
We can. I mean, we don't need to preclude anything, but I think
let's preclude. No, I'm kidding.
Do you even know what that means?
No. Actually, yes, I do. I just thought it'd be funnier if I said no.
Okay.
It means to exclude, right?
Yeah.
To not include,
Right.
correct?
Right. Right. So,
See, I'm actually, I did get my master's. Woo.
indeed you did.
Not in any great subject, but
Not in a big hurry.
not in any big hurry.
Yeah.
No, I was in a big hurry to get my master's. I definitely was. I wanted to get out of
How'd that
school.
work out for you?
Well, let's just talk about a guy who wanted to have sex with me before I got checked out. So, really talking about intimate relationships or relationships between females and male, or I guess when we're talking about intimate relationships, because there's a lot of homosexuals as well, it would be male and female or female. Could it be animal and human that we could talk about too?
I don't think that that's a relationship of equals.
Okay, so we're just going to talk about human intimate relationships.
I think that we should keep that.
Just curb it to that, dial it to that.
I think we should preclude bestiality. just a thought. You can love your dog, but who knows how your dog feels about you.
Some people say they do.
Well, I mean, you do decide whether or not they live or die. So
you hope you're not having sex with your dog, though.
That has a certain
or cat.
A certain pull with the dumb animal.
Maybe we should let's reel that one back in.
Yeah?
Let's go away from the bestiality.
Okay.
I'm sorry I brought it up.
So am I.
So we're talking about intimate relationships, right? And with intimacy, what do you feel that intimacy involves when you're talking about an intimate relationship with someone?
Well, I mean, the two people make a choice to spend time together and to communicate their feelings and their thoughts and their needs, and to trust another person and to count on them for certain things. But really, you can't define it as two people because it could be more. It certainly could be man to man or man to woman or woman to woman.
Well, you can have intimacy, though, I think, with a lot of different people if you define it the way that you just did. Then I have intimacy with quite a few different types of, my friends, females included, because you didn't actually say sex there.
I did not.
When you talked about that.
No, I didn't.
Part of it.
So the challenge of anything is defining it.
Yeah.
It's an old line from the Supreme Court. They can't define obscenity, but they know it when they see it. So.
And who's really defining it?
Exactly.
And who's actually, that's their own objective or subjective viewpoint. It really is a subjective
matter. So, I mean, there's a big issue right now in I can't think of the name of the town, Hilldale, and another town on the Arizona and Utah border, about a fundamentalist group of Mormons who still believe in polygamy, and so they have multiple wives.
Wow, those guys are lucky.
Or
not.
Unlucky, yeah. Depending on
the
quality of their relationship. But in that fundamentalist sect, men are primary and women are subservient to them. So,
well, I'm glad I'm not in that sect.
It's
or maybe sex. No, sorry, sect. Just kidding.
To my mind, it's pretty horrible because women are property and children are property, and so there's very little respect
or value then placed on women and children.
Yeah, exactly. The boys are actually kicked out of the group when they become teenagers because they're competition for the older guys.
Really?
Yeah,
where did they go?
They live on the streets.
Really?
Yeah, and they're kicked out of the community.
Wow.
There was a big write-up.
How do they get older men then?
There was a big write-up in the Times, and the leader of the sect, his name is Warren Jeffs. He's actually made the FBI's 10 most wanted list.
Is he hiding so nobody can find him?
Yes.
Wow, that's pretty dang amazing.
It's pretty wild.
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Well, let's first then start talking about. Well, let me just say this to that: when we're talking about intimate relationships, by definition, what you described, it's really also we have an intimate relationship with ourselves or not. Correct? If we're going to just talk about our relationship with ourselves first, are we intimate with ourselves or are we cut off from ourselves from those definitions of what you said?
Well, I think the nature of defining it as a relationship suggests that there's something external.
So it's more than just one. It's more than just you.
Yeah,
it's another person.
Because obviously I have, I am myself. But
hopefully you have an intimate relationship with yourself.
Yeah.
Hopefully you trust yourself.
Does the right hand have a relationship with the left hand?
Sometimes with some people.
I don't know. I mean, it comes down to definition of the term. So
we'll talk primarily right now, or we'll at least initially start talking about the intimate relationship that you would have with a mate.
A mate. I think that's a good way to put it.
I mean, we could say that way.
Yeah.
And a mate could be somebody that you boyfriend, girlfriend.
Yeah. I think
live in, partner, marriage. Wait a second. Wait, can I say the word right? Help me out here.
Marriage?
Yes.
Married?
Yeah, married is what I wanted to say. Thank you. I couldn't get it out.
Yeah.
Married relationship. Am I missing anything in that group when we're talking about a mate?
I think. I mean, of course, you're missing something, but that doesn't mean that we can't move on from here.
Okay, so let's.
Because it's going to be very difficult to be all inclusive with any definition, with any
So
with
let's
any
talk
construct.
Let's talk about that then. When do you know that you're having intimacy with somebody that is real or made up in your head, or that it's really like, how long do you stay, in a certain situation that's maybe not really feeling very good or you're suffering, but you love that person? Can we identify the intimacy as love? Can we talk about it in that regard yet?
It's very difficult to give some blanket, rule as to what the parameters are, because it really is an individual experience. I mean, if I want to be with someone and I choose to be with someone,
and you're going to put up with all kinds of crap.
And then I make a bargain with myself as to if it's worth the crap, assuming that I'm getting crap.
Uh-huh.
I mean, maybe I'm not getting crap. Maybe it's wonderful. Maybe they're nice to me and fun. Maybe they're irresponsible and maybe I'm desperate. I mean, who knows? Because every situation is different and every relationship is different. So, I can't make a list of rules that this is how you should behave in your relationship, because people are too unpredictable.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't define people as this or that, because one, everyone's an individual, and two, everyone changes over the course of time.
And even like both people change. And then you hope that while the change is happening, that you're actually growing together and moving towards more intimacy, or at least growth. And
we also come from different cultures and subcultures. So, we have different expectations of what our relationship is going to provide for us. I mean, in many cultures around the world, women are still property, and they're sold off by their parents.
Thank goodness we live in America.
We do.
We're the greatest country in the world, and we have freedom here, and women have rights.
Women have rights.
And thank goodness for that. Even though I know that a lot of women out there are not thinking that they're all equal still, and they feel like a minority, and I understand that because I'm a woman. And but we work for that. And you white males are still thinking that you guys are top dogs, man.
Well,
no.
We are, and we do run the world, and we do have our finger on the button.
You bastards!
And when I say we, I don't mean me, because I don't have my finger on the button.
No, you don't. But a white male does.
But a white male does. And but there's plenty of other ways to express power, without destroying the world. Within a home, some women have the power, some men have the power. And if it comes down to violence, well, then the bigger one is going to win.
Right.
Whether it's a man or a woman. I mean, certainly men are predominantly, for the most part, larger and stronger. Mm-hmm. And the strong have taken advantage of the weak since before we were humans. Mm-hmm. And still do, throughout the animal world. And so we have different constructs that, promote the survival of the species.
So,
and we call those and today in this time and in this place, we call those constructs intimate relationships.
So really, when we're talking about intimate relationships, some of them can be perfect and beautiful and wonderful. And
which ones are those?
Well, I know just very, very few people that have a really beautiful, trusting, loving, intimate, wonderful relationship.
You think they have those things, but
from the outside.
From the outside.
And from what I can gather from them directly.
From what you've been told and from what you see.
Agreed.
But who knows if that's the truth?
That could be true, because then it's really hard to actually, even know yourself.
Exactly.
In detail.
I mean,
to really know someone else.
From the outside, it looked like Scott and Scott Peterson, and what was his wife's name?
Was it Lacey?
Lacey. I think it was Lacey. From the outside, it looked like they had a wonderful relationship.
Boy, that
turned out he was cheating on her and killed her.
Really horrible.
It's really horrible. But from the outside, prior to this coming out into the open, from the outside, it looked like they had a good relationship.
Well, let's take that as a tiny example then, too.
It's a horrible example.
It's a horrible example. I just want to say, I want to take a caller, okay? Is that okay if we take a caller right now?
Of course. What are you asking my permission for?
Well, because you're the man.
Oh, yeah,
I just wanted to make sure
right, yeah.
that it was okay with you.
Yeah, right, like that's going to stop you.
I don't want to be slapped down by you or anything, man.
Yeah.
We have our first caller online. Jen, are you with us?
I am.
Hi, how you doing today?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Doing good. You calling?
Good.
Where are you calling from?
Excuse me. I'm calling from out in the valley.
Oh, how very nice. Well, welcome. Is it hot there? Or is it beautiful?
Actually, it's very nice today. There's a nice breeze going, so that's always good.
Oh, that is wonderful. It's nice over here too.
Yeah.
Hey, Sue, I don't know if you've had the opportunity to hear all the situation we're talking about. We're talking about intimate relationships, and we kind of brought up just a whole bunch of different scenarios. I wondered if you had an opinion of what we were talking about, or if you have something that you'd like to share.
Well, I think that definitely what you guys are talking about it's an interesting topic, and I think it's harder in my opinion, I think women are definitely more apt to being open to intimacy than men, because I think for whatever reason, whether it's society or culture or they can't be emotional, or they shouldn't be emotional. They think they shouldn't be. So it ends up coming down to the women tend to be more open to intimacy, and it takes the men a little longer to open up to that. I mean, would you say that's a fair assumption?
Absolutely. I mean, men are defined by their wallet.
That's interesting. Yeah, you're correct.
Yeah, and they certainly they're not allowed to show emotion. Men who show cry at movies and.
Absolutely, and it's funny because you find the ones that really are more emotional are the ones that tend to be on the outside tend to not be emotional. They hide it better, and the ones that are a little more comfortable with their emotions, that are not quite as emotional, they tend to be more open to intimacy a little bit sooner than the other ones. And it's interesting how that happens. I mean, I know there are probably some men out there that are very comfortable with their intimacy, and women that aren't. But I think on the whole, we tend to be the nurturers, and the women tend to want to give and open up and have it be this wonderful experience, and the men are very apprehensive to let that go. It takes them much longer to be able to get to that level.
Do you think that has something to do with the nature of female and the nature of male? Like in my sense, the nature or the backbone of females is nurturer, nester, homemaker, mother, the one that gives birth, the one that loves and hugs and holds and gives that kind of nurturing. And then the male is, a provider, a go-getter, a hunter, a seed, let's just say a seed planter.
A farmer.
Yeah, a farmer. I'm going to say a seed planter, but everybody gets what I'm talking about, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Do you think that because of that nature that we have between the two species, that has something to do with that intimacy level?
I'm sorry, I just have to break in. It's one species.
I'm sorry.
It's different genders.
No, that's fine.
I meant genders.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
Well, we are sometimes different species,
No,
too.
we're one species.
I'm totally
different
kidding.
genders.
I was just thinking the men's were aliens. I'm sorry.
And much of it is biology. I mean, women have an investment in their child, and men have very little biological investment in their child. And so it does affect how we behave and how we treat each other and what we expect of each other. I'm sorry, you were going to say, Jen?
Oh, no, I was just going to say, I think you're correct in the assumption that I think it's innate in women to be mothering, but I also know a lot of mothers who, are just not, for whatever reason, I always say they didn't get the mommy gene. So I think that it's definitely there are more women than not that are the nurturing type, but obviously there's some exceptions. But I think that does definitely give us I don't want to say an advantage over men, but I think we are more apt to want to get to that place of having an intimate relationship and committed and all those things before the man. And I don't know if that's just human nature that men have a harder time committing because they feel like they aren't supposed to, or they're afraid or whatever. I think women are more apt to wanting to be in that kind of relationship, probably because they are the mother and the nurturer, and that's just the way that society has placed us. But also, I think it is innate in us that that's what we want to do. I mean, I know for me personally, I'm absolutely the nurturer, the mother, the want to take care of everything, fix everything, and and I think it's been detrimental and helpful in relationships depending on the man.
Depending on the type of man that you're with, it either has aided you by you possessing that quality or hindered you?
It depends. Some men really like that. They want to be taken care of. Other men want to be taken care of, but they don't want to have to deal with the emotional part that goes along with it. Do you know what I mean? They want the physical part. They want me to go to the store. They want me to do the dishes. But it's like when I say, okay, but see, now this is where the relationship's going. It's like, whoa.
Wait a second. Wait a second. Don't push me, man.
It really does depend.
Exactly.
It really does depend on the individuals, because we can have these ideas about what society asks of us and what biology asks of us, but individuals are different.
And then we come down to the psyche of the individual and how messed up they are, or how they were raised, or what kind of parenting. And I want to back up, because what kind of parenting they had and what kind of parents their parents have, because that gets passed on in the social conditioning. And if you weren't perhaps nurtured as a child, I mean, tell me what you guys think about this. If you weren't nurtured as a child, and then someone later on in life, even though you desire it and really want that, it's very difficult sometimes to accept that, because you don't know how to accept that, because that wasn't something that was in your world. And so it's kind of voided for you. I happen to know quite a few people like that, men especially, that have dealt with that, and including myself. I wasn't nurtured when I was a child, but I'm a woman, so I've learned to nurture myself. Right. Which I don't know for men, and maybe you could help me out with this, if that's possible for a man to do for himself, then, if that's not part of his nature normally.
Well, I can't speak for all men. I can only speak for myself.
Okay, can you speak for you then?
And I had some pretty messed up parenting.
You did?
Yeah, absolutely.
What about me?
Are you my parent?
No, I was saying, did I have messed up parenting too? I'm kidding with you. We're brother and sister, of course. I just wanted to one-up you, man.
Well, actually, it's not always the case. Just, that siblings have the same experience of parents.
Well, we actually have very different experiences. In fact, there's 5 of us, and we all have had different experiences.
Because parents do treat their children differently. And
we are also different in the way that we absorbed or took on the information.
The way what we learned and how we learned it.
And how we
process it, and how we remember it, and how we respond to it.
Agreed.
And who we become as a result of it.
What do you think about that, Jen?
I definitely think that, a child's first experience about relationships is from their parents. That's who they model after. That's who they see. So if a child has a connection with their parent, or if the parent doesn't show them how to have a relationship, then absolutely they're going to grow up and they're not going to know how to connect with other people, and they're going to find their own way, and whether it's correct or not correct or detrimental or helpful, they won't know, because they do what they learn. And if a parent is detrimental to a child and not non-nurturing, they're not going to know how to have a nurturing relationship. And I think that's a huge problem in society right now, is that a lot of people don't know how to have really meaningful, lasting relationships, because divorce is so prominent, and it's an answer to a problem. If you don't feel like you can do this anymore, okay, I'm just going to get divorced. And everyone's so quick to jump to that, and it's not a big deal, and it's just, they're just getting divorced, that it becomes the answer, instead of saying, hey, let's see if we can work this out. And I think children learn that, and then they don't, they feel like, well, if I'm in this relationship for a year and it's not going the way I want it to, well, I'll just get out. I'm not going to try and fix the problem. I'm just going to, why should I put in any more effort? I'm just going to leave. And I think that carries over into a lot of adults. They learn that behavior, and it makes it difficult for those of us that did come from, strong, nurturing parents and relationships, to try and have relationships with these people, because I can't wrap my brain around why somebody wouldn't want to work on something or work towards something. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because, they don't have the value of what the effort that they put in is what they're going to get back out of the relationship. The value creation is kind of null and void, because the value is I can just walk away from you, or human life is not that valuable, or your relationship's not that valuable to actually work on. I believe the couple that I was speaking about, in my mind anyway, the couple that I was speaking about that I believe has a really wonderful, intimate, beautiful relationship, they work on it every day. It's an effort for them, but it's worth it, because they get paid off, because they get closer and have that feeling of camaraderie, and know that they are not going anywhere. So they're not threatened that one person's going to leave, because I think that adds another element of fear or anxiety in the other party. What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, it's nice. Commitment is a nice word, and it's a nice idea, but what are you committed to? I mean, if someone is unpleasant to be with, if someone is nice and friendly and romantic, and 2 weeks after the marriage, they're angry and hostile and
psycho, and
they're psycho, and it turns out they were on their best behavior, and that's not who they really are. Then what have you committed to? Craziness. So. Is that still recording?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry. So it's a real challenge, because people are different and people do have different expectations. And again, we're still talking about our culture, because
there's a lot of other cultures that have a whole other opinion
around the world now, and also throughout history, when it was completely different, and the expectations of man and woman were completely different. And even now, I mean, women don't all want the same thing, and men don't all want the same thing. That's why I don't believe that Freud actually asked, what do women want? Because I would think that he understood that women are different. But of course... He
was a man.
But of course, I don't know Freud, and I don't get an opportunity to cross-examine Freud. So.
And also, he was a man, so how could he really know?
Well, that was his question, is that he referred to that as... It's apocryphal, which means it may or may not have happened. But the expression is that Freud's greatest predicament was, what do women want?
Did he answer it?
No, because that was the question.
Jen, what do women want, or what do you as a woman want? Are you with me, Jen?
Oh, yeah, I'm with you. Sorry, I thought you were asking him.
That's okay. No, I'm sorry. I'm asking you. What do women want, or you as a woman, what do you want?
Well, I think what everybody wants. I think, definitely women and men are different, but I think what everybody wants is to feel loved unconditionally, and to feel safe, and to feel like, they have somebody that they can count on when, times get tough, but also they can have somebody that they can do things for too. And that's definitely something that is important to everybody, not necessarily to women. I think men want that too, whether they admit it or not. They want to feel safe and taken care of. And I think that, everybody wants the same thing, and that's to feel secure and to feel wanted. And what's hard is when somebody doesn't feel that way, and whether it's innate in them or not, and you're trying to fix that problem, that's when it gets hard, is that it has to come from inside them in order to fix themselves. And that's when relationships get difficult, because you can't help somebody fix themselves. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, they have to decide to do it for themselves. all we can do is be sounding boards for them when we're in a partnership of some sort.
Absolutely.
And, of course, hopefully, if in fact we do have love for them, unconditionally love them, and know that people are not perfect and they have lots of faults, including ourselves, and forgive them for that, and really get to see who they are as a person is difficult to accept sometimes, but not impossible.
Right.
And also not something that you need to cut the love off because they're not living up to your standards 100%.
Right. Nobody's perfect. And it does come down to how much you're willing to put into a relationship, and the other person's actions show that they're willing to help the relationship as well.
It really does take two to tango. I mean, it's nice to be full of ideals, but if the person that you're presently spending time with doesn't share those values and doesn't share those ideals, then maybe you are wasting your time, and maybe unconditional love doesn't work.
Well,
maybe love should be conditional.
Well, can't you love somebody unconditionally but then not be with them anymore?
I think so. I mean,
can't you allow them to, if it's not working, to say, gosh, I unconditionally love you, but this situation doesn't work for me anymore, and then I'm certainly loving myself not conditionally, unconditionally as well, but choosing a path of something that's better for me, that won't create so much suffering.
I think that's very reasonable. I mean, that's what all the great religions talk about is love, and loving your fellow man, and loving nature and loving God. And if you put conditions on those things, then where do you draw the line at conditions?
What do you think, Jen?
Well, I think I was always taught from a very young age. My mom used to say all the time, you must love everybody. You don't have to like them all the time, but you have to love everybody. And I think that's a really important thing, is when you're in a relationship and you really love someone unconditionally, but it's not working for you, you're not getting what you need out of the relationship, you can say to that person, I still love you. I will always love you, but I don't like your behavior right now, and I can't live with your behavior right now. And I think that's a really important thing to distinguish between liking somebody and loving somebody, because you can always love somebody, but it's not easy to like them sometimes. And I think you can not like them and still love them as a person, or for the the person that they are and the things that they can give you. But it's true, if this relationship is starting to be detrimental to you, and you are not, every relationship has time where you give more than the person, than the other person, and it switches off. But when it becomes an everyday thing where you're draining yourself for that other person, there's no end in sight, and I think you do have to decide that this is not the right relationship for you for right now, until that other person is willing to make the effort to make it better.
And then what happens when that person, let's say the person that it's not working out for it, that person's going to suffer, correct? I mean, does it become so clear at some point where, no, I'm just going to go ahead and let that other person free, and I'm giving up on the relationship, and this isn't working for me? Or you have all these other ideas in your mind of, gosh, I just want so bad for that person to wake up or see the truth or see what's going on, and so we wouldn't suffer, because if only that person could actually wake up and see the truth, and everything would be okay. But that's kind of conditional, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. It's absolutely conditional, which
said.
I'm okay with.
Uh-huh.
We talk about love as if it's an understood concept, and it's not.
Oh, it's pretty nebulous, isn't it?
It's very nebulous. It's very amorphous. It has no real solid definition. I mean, I can love pizza, I can love my dog, and I can love my children, I can love my wife, and these are different definitions. These are not the same thing.
Right.
So I'm using the same word to mean different things. So when we talk about a primary intimate relationship, and we talk about loving someone, that's a specific idea of what love is. So when we talk about conditions or unconditions, at what point is there no behavior, beyond which you will say, I cannot love you anymore?
I like what Jen said, though, because this made sense to me, that I can love you, but I don't like the behavior. I cannot live with that behavior any longer. However, when the person, whichever party says that creates suffering for that person, does it not? I mean, or is it so clear-cut that it's so easy just to walk away from that?
Well, it's not necessarily easy to walk away. It can be very difficult to walk away, but it still may be the right decision for you.
Even if it creates suffering?
even if it creates suffering, because the long term, the short term and the long term suffering may be worse if you stay.
Do you have
the only way people make changes is by seeing, that their behavior is not getting them where they want to be. And so if someone says to you, your behavior is, I can't live with this behavior anymore, and yes, it's going to be painful for somebody, but, that may be what they need to hear in order to say, hey, I need to make some changes in order to have my behavior be more acceptable, and it's going to make me happier in the long run, too.
But in the short run, it might cause a lot of pain.
Absolutely. But it's not intentional pain. And you know what? Life is, there's a lot of pain in life, things that are, whether it's somebody's fault or not, and I think that we learn from those things. If life were completely easy, we would never evolve. We would just stay in our little shells and be exactly who we are because we would never be challenged.
That's why I don't really want to go to heaven, because it sounds boring to me. There's no challenge. There's no struggle.
How do you know?
There's no.
Have you been to heaven yet?
It just sounds boring. What do they put you in a box and you're eternally blissful?
No, actually, I thought your definition of heaven was watching TV, eating bonbons. That's not a bad life.
Not heaven. That's just a good weekend. Oh.
And not getting fat. That has to be part of the heaven, too.
It's funny how people, define heaven. And to me it just sounds boring. I mean, you just stand around with wings on your back and a halo and,
So basically mixing it up, having the pain and having the suffering and having a human experience is...
I think the trouble with hell is, they just need a good air conditioning repairman. She need a good mechanic down there. We'll fix the AC. It'll be all right.
Hey, Jen, I wanted to thank you for being part of our conversation today and giving us all your insight. I don't know if you wanted to share something else with us that you were thinking about what we were talking about that you haven't had the opportunity yet to share.
No, I think you guys hit the nail right on the head. I think it's, between the comments that Dan was making and that you're making, I think it's great. I mean, I totally agree with both of you, and it's nice to hear a male input that is a little more rational. At least it's very honest, I should say.
Do you not get rational and honest in your normal course of your day?
Not sometimes.
Well, you caught me on a good day.
But before
right, well, you made a good impression, so at least I know there's hope out there for some of them.
Well, before you get off the line, Jen, I want to ask Dan then, since you brought up a really good topic on that. What do you feel as a male, Dan, that intimacy with emotions that is possible for males, like what we were talking about? Do you understand my question?
No, I don't.
I don't think I phrased it very well. What could we expect as females? Because Jen and I think are pretty similar in our philosophy on how we view nurturing, things like that. With having the male viewpoint, the intimacy level, what is possible all the way?
Well,
it's all different. It's all different because you're one of a million different men.
I said before, I cannot speak for men. I can only speak for myself. And I'm sorry, what was the question?
Intimacy level for you.
What can women expect from men?
Yes, exactly. Or what do men want? Like what we asked Jen.
Right.
Just before she gets off the line, just so she can also be part of that conversation. If that's okay with you, Jen.
Oh, it's fine, yeah.
Men come from all different, walks of life. And at different stages in their lives, they want different things. As a teenager, you want, wild fun. Sex? Probably. Uh-huh. And, in your late 20s, you might want to settle down. You might want children.
Sorry. Sorry.
In your 30s and 40s, you might be desperate for for family. And will you shut up?
Sorry.
What are you, Freud?
No, I'm just an annoyance now.
Okay. And it really does come down to the individual, and you just never know what you're going to get. I mean, men are not all the same, just as women are not all the same, and some women want sex and don't want commitment, and some men want a relationship more than just a wild good time. It does happen. I know it's rare.
Can you scope them out for me?
Well, I don't know any.
Oh, okay. I don't either, so I'm just... Jen, do you know any? I'm just checking. Do we know any? Hey, if there are any out there, email us, okay?
No, you would just be bored with them.
I would?
Yeah, they're probably gay anyway.
Oh.
Kidding.
No,
I'm
they
kidding.
like to have sex.
I went too far.
Yes, you did.
Yeah. I mean, so individuals are individuals. And whether you're a man or a woman, you have your own set of values, you have your own set of desires, you have your own needs and your own wants and your own expectations about what a relationship is going to bring into your life. And this isn't a function of being a man or a woman. This is an individual experience. And so when we connect with other people, you never know what you're going to get, because it really doesn't come down to your gender. It comes down to your individual experience. Certainly, there are broad, sweeping generalizations that do apply in some cases. Men tend to be less communicative and less interested in discussing, feelings. Yes.
Feelings. Nothing more than feelings.
And women love to talk. Women will talk about anything and everything.
Trying to
endlessly.
My feelings of love. Sorry.
But, women have an opportunity in this culture to excel, and men have an opportunity in this culture to be as
Ignore. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
As, irresponsible as welfare will allow. So
that was good, actually.
But in the past, if you didn't stand up and if you didn't, protect, what your investments, and I mean your family, and I mean by investment, I mean your wife and your child and your home, you would lose those things. We're a culture and we're a nation of laws now, and thank God for that, because we have such a terrific system in place for protecting the rights of the individual. This is a big part of why fundamental Islam scares me so much, is because it has no respect for the rights of the individual. It has
or women.
Or women. I was going to say it. It has no respect for women.
Pretty horrible.
It has no respect for girls. The girls aren't even allowed to be educated. And frankly, it has very little respect for men as well, because the individual serves the structure, the group, as opposed to the group existing to serve the individual. And that's one of the things that John Bradshaw, he's a psychologist and a lecturer. He talks about, you can tell the health of any organization depending on whether or not the organization exists to serve the individual, or if the individual exists to serve the organization. And that's true of corporate culture. That's true of a family structure as well. If your children, if as a parent you make your children responsible for how you feel, that's completely unfair and unrealistic to your children. But if you discuss with your children and you parent your children and you teach them, because you're not really raising children, you're raising people. And so you have to you're going to behave in ways that are going to affect them for the rest of their lives. Unless some trigger in them and they choose to escape their conditioning and educate themselves.
Like me,
you and me, both. Mm-hmm. It's because at some point you have to.
But sometimes the conditioning's still there for us to.
The conditioning is powerful.
Work through.
Absolutely.
Whew.
And bad parenting will stay with you a long time. What were you going to say, Jen?
Oh, nothing. I was laughing because
but,
you hit the nail right on the head.
Yeah, but you didn't say what men want, because you said a whole bunch of different things. But you, as a man, just one individual man, what do you want in an intimate relationship?
Well,
if I can ask you that.
Well, there is a difference. There's a biological difference, and I don't mean physically. I don't mean the size of us, and I don't mean, but behaviorally, the chemical biology of man and women, that we do approach things differently.
Absolutely. I used to think we did it the same, but I learned as I grew
women
up.
Tend to be more subservient in their manner and their style and their behavior, and men tend to be more dominant in their manner and their style and their behavior. So from that perspective, if my goal is to dominate others, then I wish to possess other things. Whereas a woman may wish to
serve.
May wish to belong to someone and to serve someone. A man is going to want to be served and to dominate and to possess things.
Is that true for your nature of what you want?
You're
very different, so that's why
I
I'm
am
asking
different.
you.
So you can't. We've said before, you can't go by me. So because I've done a great deal of internal work to overcome my conditioning and to view people as individuals and to not categorize people into some artificial construct that suits me. I try very, very hard not to do that. And though I still do it sometimes, I see something and of course I judge it because I can't help it. I mean, I draw assumptions based on my perceptions. But women want to belong and men want to possess. And so men, like I said before, men are judged by their wallets, and that's a metaphor, of course, for their possessions. Men are judged by all the things that they have, whereas women are more judged on their appearance. So as far as what men want, just money and power.
Money and power.
Money and power.
Which gets them sex.
All the sex they can,
Right?
Yeah. But sex is a symbol.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you have a trophy wife. You know, you have trophy children. You have a trophy home.
But not intimacy. They don't seek that necessarily. Because I know, Jen, am I correct when I say that I think most women seek intimacy?
I think so. I think definitely most women seek that. And I think that that's not the first thing that a man seeks.
Would you agree with that?
I would agree with that.
So it's the money and the power.
But I would also balance that with a recognition that individuals want different things.
Absolutely, because we are all individuals.
Yeah.
We're just talking very generic right now.
Yeah, very general.
Very general.
Yeah.
Well, I thank you for that. And thanks, Jen, for hanging on the line with us to hear that from a male's viewpoint.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
Thanks for calling in.
Thanks for calling in. You have a great day.
Thanks. You too, guys.
Talk to you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, that was fun.
She seems nice.
She seemed very nice. And also, she had a lot of great things to say.
Right.
A lot of
she was very
I think articulate.
complimentary to me.
Which is always good.
Which is nice.
Which is nice. You want to meet her now, right? Hey, let me meet her now. Whoa, sorry about that, everyone. I am wondering about when is enough enough? When do you call it enough? When do you know when you're in an intimate relationship and you want to compromise because you love the person and you want to make things work because you care about the person and you just know it feels like it's right around the corner and you just know if when you do this, you know, it's going to be better. Or when do you know it's enough? When do you know to walk away when something's not working? Do you have a thought about that?
You know, every situation is different. You know, and it's not like an automobile that you can tune.
Damn it.
It's just not, because people are different, and individuals are so different, and we do have different wants and different desires and different expectations. So it's a real challenge. You know, if you can find someone who wants to work on it and is willing to work on, you know, the issues that confront us and maybe the problems that they have, and are willing to educate themselves and do some of the emotional and spiritual work that, you know, in order to improve themselves, then maybe it's worth, you know, sticking around and helping them to achieve something, you know, if those are your values. You know, if you have two 18-year-olds that are hooking up and, you know, making babies and maybe even not even 18, but 15 or 16, you know, there's no growth there. There's very little education there. There's certainly no maturity. And we're really just operating out of our conditioning and out of our biochemical, you know, process that drives us to seek each other out, you know, and our social expectations of each other.
Do all teenagers lie?
I think so. I think it's very common. I mean, it's a very effective method to get away with stuff. I mean, what's the downside?
Well, they don't know yet what the downside is, right?
Well, there may not even be a downside.
What about the karma that they create for themselves about lying?
Karma is next time. You don't worry about next time when you're a teenager.
Well, no, karma is this life.
Karma is this life, really?
Yeah, of course. Karma has to do with what comes, what goes around comes around. What, cause and effect. What you do is what you get here now.
Unfortunately, it's not quick enough.
Uh-huh.
And that's the nature of...
Can't see it immediately, huh?
That's the appeal of instant karma.
Uh-huh.
Thank you, John Lennon.
Thank you, John Lennon. I wish that when people lied, they got smacked in the face or something, immediately. That'd be great.
It would be nice if you could tell when someone was lying, because then there could be consequences. But if you can't tell, then there's no consequences. And this is one of the challenges of parenting, is that you have to behave in ways that teach your children the values that you want them to learn. But if the parent doesn't have the values, then the child's certainly not going to get it. And there's plenty of parents who are liars.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. I know we kind of changed the subject because and that's actually something that we can talk about next time.
It's certainly related, because the quality of our intimate relationships is a direct result of the quality of our parenting.
And a direct result whether
quality of our upbringing, I should say. Yeah.
And also then a direct result of if we're lying or telling the truth, because if we're having an intimate relationship with somebody and one of the parties is lying to the other person or themselves,
then that's not real intimacy, is it?
It is. It cannot be.
Yeah.
And then the other party doesn't even absolutely know, and then they're basing their information or what they're going to do next on what they're being fed, which is actually a lie. So it is basically built on a house of cards that can just fall down like that, rather than a real foundation.
Built on a great deception,
which isn't true. But to build something on the truth, even though it might not be as pretty as what you'd like, is the opportunity for real intimacy, is it not?
I'm sorry, say that again?
To build whatever relationship that you have on the truth, even though you may not like the truth or it may not be perfect, but to build it on the truth with each other, isn't that a basis of real intimacy?
I think it's
the only thing.
It's step one.
It's number one.
That you have to be honest.
You have to say the truth to each other.
Because if you're not being honest,
then what kind of relationship could you possibly have with the other person?
Then it's not real intimacy.
It's false.
It's
false. It's going to fall down quickly.
Well,
or shatter, or
who knows? What the consequences will be, because certainly everybody lies, and there are different levels of lies.
Wouldn't it be great, if we had some little sensor, if people were lying, it went green or red?
It would be fantastic.
We could see it right on their forehead.
You could tell. But language is very subjective, and language is very tricky. So, there are lies of omission, which means I'm not saying everything.
I'm not telling you.
I'm not telling everything. And there are also direct lies where every word out of my mouth is just not the truth. And it's a real challenge because you really can't tell. The FBI spends millions of dollars trying to figure out how to test and how to tell when people are lying. And they haven't been able to do it. I mean, the government would love to be able to tell.
Oh, that's why they have all those...
And the government can't. The greatest scientists in the world have repeatedly said, the National Science Foundation, the NSF, they've said, hey, these polygraphs, they don't work. They just don't work. And we've had cases where people turned out to be spies.
But lied really well.
And they have passed many polygraphs.
Because
repeatedly.
They've learned how to...
Because it's not a test of whether or not you're lying. It's a test of your physiological. Oh. It's a test of your physiology.
So if they in their mind have made that the truth...
No, it's just a matter of controlling your physiology.
Oh. Okay.
So, I mean, and especially, and these are, this is a mechanical device that's testing your, it's called a galvanometer. It's testing your skin moisture. It's testing the inflection in your voice, those sorts of things. But it's not testing whether or not you're lying. So yeah, it would be great if we could tell, but unfortunately we can't tell. So, Dr. Phil talks about trusting, but he doesn't say trust other people. He says trust yourself to survive whatever happens. Because
that's a very nice thought.
It is a nice thought.
It's difficult.
Because then you can trust someone, and if they turned out to be a liar, you know that you'll make it. You'll know that you will survive. And that's the challenge, is trusting other people who, frankly, you don't really know.
Or just learning to know.
Learning to know.
Hey,
Getting
known
to know.
somebody for 20 years, and then all of a sudden, 20 years later, you're like, what?
And really, we are...
That's what happened?
We are a biochemical soup. So, and some, not all lies are for the purpose of hurting. Some lies are for the purpose of helping and protecting people. So there really are different levels of lies.
Wait, you're going to have to give me an example of that one.
Well, if your wife asks if the pants make her butt look big, what are you going to say? You know?
Yes.
No, it ain't the pants. That's what you say.
Oh, ow. Yeah, and then no more sex
right.
for a
How's
week.
that going to go?
Yeah.
Right.
So basically, don't lie. Just say, you're beautiful just the way
right.
that you are.
You're wonderful. You're fabulous. And I love you so
I love
much.
your butt. I love big butts. Say something
No, you
like
can't
that.
even say that. 'Cause
I love your big butt.
your great, big,
I love
beautiful
big,
butt. Yeah.
Exactly. I love your big butt. Big butt.
So, I mean, there are different types of lies, and there are different...
Types of deception.
There are different types of deception.
So it's the level of
and
what
not
that
all
is.
deception is bad. You know,
Wow, I never thought of it
if
that
I'm
way.
lying to protect someone, that's different than if I'm lying to hurt someone. It's completely different. So,
But then, okay, because somebody could interpret that they're lying to protect themselves
even
from getting in trouble
sometimes
about
even-
cheating or not cheating
well,
on
I mean,
their
that's
wives.
that's different. Well, that comes down to authority. I mean, who's in charge? You know what I mean?
What do you mean, the male or the female?
Well, I mean, in any relationship,
Mm-hmm.
you know, what is the, you know, if your goal is to protect yourself, if you're cheating and then you lie to your wife about it, that's a lie. That's a lie of deception.
And that's to hurt.
Yeah.
But not just to protect, because you
Right.
could turn that into, well, I'm protecting myself, but actually that's just
Yeah, but if someone holds a gun to your head and wants to know, you know, where you keep your money,
different story.
that's different. You
I
know,
can get that.
So
It
you're
depends on the
protecting-
context.
It does. It depends on the context, and that's the challenge. And there are no rules, and that's the nature of judgment. That's the nature of drawing conclusions from available information.
Mm-hmm.
Is that you really can't. You know, we come back to the Supreme Court. You know, how do you define it? So it's a real challenge, and that's the nature of our lives, is that we learn as we go.
Yeah. Well, I want to make sure that
I
we
mean,
have
it would be nice if we could write up a rule book,
Gosh, wouldn't it be? You know, just basically, hey,
but it's just not that simple.
could we write a nice rule book so we could all just get along? We
There's
just
just
all
so
want
many
to get
variables.
along.
There's just so many variables, you know.
It's true.
And really, in any relationship that you have,
It would just be really nice if people could be straightforward. I think that's what I think most of the people in my world find difficult.
I mean, that's
because
why
I'm pretty straightforward. I say exactly what's on my mind, and I speak my mind, and I'm a really nice person. So I don't know that a lot of men actually appreciate that. I think they tend to like bitches that play games, and I'm not a big bitch or a big game player. I just
well, for some people, that's exciting.
It
you know?
is.
Yeah.
It is. It's exciting
That's
and thrilling,
exciting and
it's
thrilling,
not
and you-
something that
and you-
I actually wish to even participate in because it's such a
Exactly.
game for me.
Exactly.
And I'm like, I've already played those games. I'm an adult now, and I've grown, and I don't really want to play that game with myself or with other people. So if somebody wants that, obviously I'm not the right call for that person. And I also find really strange because I had this one boyfriend that was quite shocked that because I guess I'm a pretty dominant personality. I don't think of myself that way, but was quite surprised that I was submissive to him. I had to explain. He was more dominant than me. That was why I was submissive.
Well, you
Quite interesting. Don't men mostly want
in
their
your-
woman to
in
be
your-
submissive?
Not necessarily. In your professional life, you tend to be pretty dominant, and then in your personal life,
I want the man to be in charge.
you still have, you know, this social expectation that men are in charge.
Well, then I want that.
You want that,
I desire that.
and
I
maybe
want-
that's too much pressure for most men, because they don't know what they're doing either.
Aha.
You know, and
They want the woman to take over. No, you're going to do
not
this.
necessarily, but they want an equal. How about an equal? How about that?
Well, I feel that I'm pretty equal in that regard. I just don't always like making all the decisions.
Yeah. So you find
Because I make all the decisions all the time on my life.
you find someone who can give and take,
Right.
and who's willing to communicate, you know, those issues of balance and role playing, you know, the roles that we play with each other.
Mm-hmm. But as soon as I did step up and say what I wanted, it wasn't okay. He was like, no, I want the... Oh, okay. Wait a second. I thought you wanted me to be dominant.
Some
So they
people
kind of
just
trick you.
can't win. Oh, absolutely.
It's like they say that, but then when you really do it, they don't really want that.
Right.
So why does that happen when we're talking about intimate
Well,
relationships?
you're talking about individuals, and you're talking about people who don't necessarily know what they're talking about. You know, I try very hard to say what I mean and I mean what I say.
And so do I. So I, of course, think whoever I'm going to be with is going to be very much like that. But am I wrong?
And I've discovered that that's not a very common value.
Oh.
You know, I've discovered...
Is that because of what we've just decided in our lives, that we happen to have that, share that
you know,
value?
individuals don't even know what they want for the most part. we're just playing out some role that someone else has defined for us.
Really?
If you
I guess we've defined our own roles, so we've kind of done some education and found out what works for us.
That's what education does for you. It allows you to redefine yourself.
Definitely a way out of whatever works.
Based on some values that you consider important. Mm-hmm. Whereas, people all over the world don't have that opportunity, including in this culture.
Thank goodness.
Don't have that opportunity.
The opportunity for education for us.
To educate themselves. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then we've taken it upon ourselves to do that.
Exactly. At some point, we do take responsibility for ourselves and for our own behavior and our own beliefs and our own attitudes.
But that kind of sets me apart from a lot of people.
Which is what I've said before. Which
is rare, right?
Yeah.
And so to actually be able to sustain a relationship or an intimate relationship with a male when, in fact, you are honest and you're nice and you're giving and generous and unwilling to be a manipulative bitch.
And hopefully you can find someone who not only behaves in a similar fashion, but also appreciates those sorts of values. Mm. And that's going to be your challenge.
Not going to be.
Well,
let's just say is.
Moving on from here.
Let's just say is my challenge.
Sure.
Because
sure.
that's present reality. Uh-huh. And although I
meant tomorrow.
Oh, you meant tomorrow. Going to be tomorrow.
Yeah.
Even though it's slightly uncomfortable for me, I don't wish to live another way. I don't.
I mean, everything has an upside and everything has a downside. I mean, if you want to be deceptive and have a relationship on those terms, where's that going to get you?
Boy, a lot of relationships.
It will. It'll get you a lot of men who,
are deceptive.
Who are also going to be deceptive. So, if you believe
and manipulative.
If you believe in karma,
I absolutely do.
Then you have to behave in ways
that create value for me.
That create value, that are honest and reasonable and rational, and that will create positive circumstances in the future for yourself and for those around you.
And that's a narrow path, though. I believe that path is a lot more narrow than. Let's just say that's a minority.
I agree.
Right?
I agree. But do we flatter ourselves?
Yeah, probably.
I think so. Yeah. Which is okay. I mean, if that's what it takes to get us through,
A little pat on the back once
sure.
in a while.
Sure.
Hopefully that'll become the majority, though, and that is why we're doing what we're doing.
I think what we can do is set ourselves up as an example and say that this is a better way.
And know that I'm not perfect, and of course I still make mistakes, and I catch myself and go, oh my God, how did I just do that?
Well,
and when I do, I hope that I come
but
to the table and apologize and make sure that I clear up whatever I can. Cause
it is a willingness to communicate, and it does take two people to communicate, and it only takes one to sever the lines. It really does.
And then what happens when the one severs a line and the other one doesn't? Because that happens in intimate relationships often.
The line is severed. And unless you can find a way to reestablish it, you're out of luck. Because it only takes one to sever the line of communication. If I choose to stop communicating with you,
I'm cut out.
There's nothing you can do about it. And that's
and that could create suffering for me.
Could.
Or I could let it be okay.
Well, at some point, you do need to
let it be okay.
Find a way to make it okay.
And all their problems in my mind that I think can be fixed.
God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change.
Mm.
And
we do have free will here.
We do.
Sometimes I hate that free will.
It's a real
Because you want to see that other person, you want to go, just choose this, man.
It's a real challenge.
Please. Right?
Mm-hmm.
But they have free will, so they get to choose.
Right.
And knowing what they choose and accepting what they choose is one thing, and it's possible for me to unconditionally love somebody in that regard, but not be with them.
Absolutely.
And that has happened to me in the past as well. And it has always benefited me when I look back, to do that. But during that time, it's been actually difficult to process because my understanding in my mind does not get why, or really why.
Well, at some point, maybe you have to give up on why. I mean,
and replace it with what?
Yes. Replace it with
okay.
What? Replace it with what?
Explain.
Well,
I got stuck.
We're doing an Abbott and Costello bit at this point.
When? Who's on third?
What is on first?
I don't know.
Third base.
Why?
I don't need to know why.
You don't?
No. I just need to know what.
And then the what?
The what is this other
that free
individual.
choice.
This other individual is
Chose
making
that.
choices that you cannot control. As to why he's making those choices, what difference does it make? It doesn't make a difference. It has no impact on your choices.
The choice.
On your choices.
On my choices. It does not?
I don't think so. Does it?
Well, I don't know, because I'm thinking that it did.
You always thought that it does.
Yeah, or I thought if I understood why, it would be easier for me to accept. That's how I tend to have lived my life. So perhaps going into intimate relationships, because I like to educate myself, so then I want to figure out why things, or study this, or understand that.
We're back to accepting the things you cannot change.
Yeah. And knowing that free choice.
Knowing that someone has made some other choice that doesn't include you.
Yes.
Is a real challenge.
And that's the biggest challenge, isn't it? Especially when you love that person and want to be with them. And
well,
you've actually chosen to be them.
You've said two things there. One, that you love them.
Yeah.
And two, that you want to be with them. Those aren't necessarily the same thing.
No, they're not. That's why I said both of them.
Right.
Because I can unconditionally love someone and not be with them.
And not wish to be with them.
And not wish to be with them. And I have a couple people that I do unconditionally love that I have no desire to be with.
Right.
I'm talking about on an intimate level.
Sure.
Not to know them or talk to them or anything like that. But there's no harbor of any resentment whatsoever. So it's clean, it's clear. The communication line, the heart is free. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And that's healthy.
But
so your challenge is going to be how to do that quicker, how to get to that point quicker, right?
Yeah.
How to recover quicker.
But I think
from the pain of the loss.
Yes.
So, because it's a very healthy perspective to say, I love this person, but they're making choices that don't include me and that don't consider me.
And that hurt. But that hurts me.
And
that would hurt me, of course.
And that do hurt me.
I mean, is that unreasonable to think that I'm going to be suffering
in the interest of protecting myself, I need to not spend time with them. It's a real challenge. And
not know why. That's the real challenge, I think, for me. Because if I know why, then I have an easier time accepting. So I'm relating to things.
Then create some scenario in your own head as to the why. Because even if they tell you, you don't know if that's true. Even if they give you some why, what difference does that make? Even if they jabber on for 2 hours and give you some why, how does that soften the blow for you? Because what difference does that make? I mean, it's their own lives, it's their own world, it's their own choices. You know, if it's because you have red hair, or if it's because you have brown eyes, or
I'm too fat, or
whatever the reason,
boobs too big.
Yeah, whatever the reason.
Can you imagine? Boobs too big. Sorry. I've actually got that. So
whatever the reason, it should not
matter. Is what you're saying.
Yeah. For some
reason,
that's a
real challenge.
It's a real challenge.
Well, for me, I don't know for most people.
Because they're making some choice, and you have to accept that as their choice. And whatever it is, it is. And if you wish to create some scenario in your own head about why they've done it, go ahead.
But that doesn't necessarily mean it's true. No.
But even if they tell you, that doesn't mean necessarily it's true either.
Because certainly, if they're making a choice not to be with you, they could lie to you.
So some scenario that you've created in your own head has just as much validity as anything they tell you.
Right, because we're only creating the stories in our own head anyway. Right, aren't
because they're creating it, and whether it's true or not, you'll never know. Especially if they're malicious, because they may tell you something very unpleasant to you, and in order to hurt you and to make it even worse for you. And some people are like that. So interesting.
Well, definitely, we'll have to have a whole show just about the truth. I think we do have a show talking about the truth.
Most of our shows are going to involve relationships and the truth.
Oh yeah.
We're going to keep coming back to this issue because it really is. It is what we're talking about. I mean, we can talk about illegal immigration. We can talk about tax reform. We can talk about politics.
And it's all going to come back to...
It's really going to come back to...
Relationships with people.
Relationships with other people, and also operating from a position of integrity.
Integrity, value.
It really does come down to that.
Morals, ethics, which is very disheartening in America right now, comparatively, that the ethics that are happening, that I see.
Well, it's a great big world, and everybody has their own agenda. So at some point you have to accept that everyone is operating out of their own self-interest. And so with that knowledge, maybe you can forgive a little bit.
I have to forgive a lot.
But also understand.
I have to forgive myself,
but also
too.
understand. It's important that you understand their motive. I've spent my life, looking for people's motive, and it's helped me a lot. And I don't.
Isn't that the why? When you say understand the motive,
it is. It is the why, but it's the why that defines them. It's not their why doesn't define me.
Mm-hmm. It's just understanding their
It's
why.
understanding them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like, because they're an asshole. It's because they want this, or they want that, or because this is their value and this is what's important to them. And so, I certainly do look at the why, but their why doesn't determine my choices. Mm-hmm. Do you understand that? Mm-hmm. So that's the difference. I do look at the why, but it doesn't decide who I am. Mm-hmm. I decide who I am. Mm-hmm. And that's the nature of independence. And if you're truly independent, which no one really is, and we're all interdependent. We all depend on each other. I certainly couldn't cook and, cook my own food. If it wasn't for Carl's Jr., I probably wouldn't eat. Or some other fast food joint, I go to Taco Bell if there was no Carl's Jr. But certainly convenient. You don't have to get out of your car or nothing. Just drive up, give them a few dollars.
All real easy, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a little too easy.
Well, I really thank you, Dan, for talking about this subject with me, and of course, being here as always.
We'll talk again. We
will talk many other times. Did you have any summary that you wanted to wrap up about this subject for today?
No, we'll talk again. There's no summary for this subject. This is a mighty big subject.
This is an ongoing
this will be
process.
ongoing, and this will be a very common issue for us and for the world.
And I'm really grateful to you that I'm able to have the kind of intimacy that I have with you, because it's not easy having good relations with your family either, and being friends with family members.
You have to remember that, they all have their own agenda as well.
And so do you, and so do I. We all do. And my agenda, of course, is to have a good relationship with you. Or that's one of them. And to have a friendship.
And to make the world a better place.
That's true.
By being in it.
That's true. And to be the change that you wish to see in the world, as Gandhi says.
In order to be a lifeguard, you must be a very strong swimmer.
Well, thank goodness you're a strong swimmer. And I'm not...
You're not dragging me down.
Yeah, thank goodness for that, huh?
Yeah.
Well, everybody, thanks for being with us.
Thanks for coming. We'll talk to you again.
Have a great one.
Bye.